Welcome to Strong by Nature, your portable campfire sessions for living strong, balanced, and connected the grizzly way. When it comes to food, most of us have been taught to think about control, calories, macros, diets, rules. But food was never meant to be about control. It was meant to connect us to our body, to our culture, to the people we share it with. That's what I want to talk about today. So just a quick little reminder, I am sitting outside in my garden, so we do get a lot of nice sort of background noise, but we also get people working with power tools and riding around on motorbikes, so please excuse any of the obscene noises. I just want to start with a little bit of a memory, I suppose, with food as a connection. So the household that I grew up in, meal times were quite important. Like I remember when I was really small. So I grew up in a town called New Plymouth in New Zealand, and when I was quite small, we would all sit down and eat breakfast together. We would eat lunch. We would eat dinner together. My dad was and still is a shift worker, so he would always do 2 nights on, 2 days on, so 12-hour shifts at a time, 4 days in a row. So on the days when he would go start his night shift at 7 p.m., we would typically have dinner at about 5:30. So I remember at a young age getting teased by my friends because of how early we had our dinners, but it was obviously working around my dad's work schedule, and for him it was very important for us to sit down and have these meals together as a family. Once we all started to become teenagers, it got a little bit trickier. Like we'd still, right up until I think the age of about 15, we would still have dinners together. We didn't have breakfast together. As I got older, like breakfast time just became a bit more chaotic. But dinner times, it was quite important up until, about the age of 15, we would sit down and have dinner. But it got to that point where we all just started becoming smart asses, and my dad's trying to like have these nice conversations and try to teach us something, but we're all just making fun of him. But my early memories were of dinner being this time to sit down together and just talk about our days and share a meal together. And that's something like I've noticed as well since coming over here to Ecuador. So this isn't, I'm living here now, but this isn't my first time here. My first time over here was about 10 years ago. And lunch is the main meal. And typically we would sit down most days and try and have breakfast together, but lunch always. And the family home, Belle's grandmother was living next door, her auntie lived down the street, so it wasn't unusual for lunchtime to have, 8-10 people sat around the lunch table with us all. It's a little bit different now, the dynamics changed a little bit, but meal times in this part of the world are still very much sit down as a family and have a little bit of connection. It is a bit different because everyone's on their phones now as well and whatnot. But food has always been about connection. So then there was this kind of switch in my life when food became more about control and about performance, and I was never really too aware or maybe just oblivious to food's role in our energy systems and our exercise until I was living in Taupo and I was running all the time. And again, this family was all about the Ironman training, so they were very carb focused. Everything was about carb loading. When you're doing that kind of training and during, like, training for an Ironman is fucking insane. Like, it's something like I'd love to be able to say I could do one day, but to be honest, I just don't think I can be fucking bothered with the effort that it takes. I started training for a half at one point and then just stopped because I think I fell in love with skateboarding again. That was towards the end of my time in Taupo. Anyway, like you're running like 20 to 30 kilometers on your long day on the weekend, but you're getting 4 or 5 other runs in during the week. You're doing days where you're cycling and swimming in the same day. Like, you got to do like 9 to 10 sessions a week minimum. You have one rest day in there, but the rest of the time, like, you are using an insane amount of calories. So carbohydrates is super important for that. So that became the focus for them. And again, like looking back, like they were obviously a little bit oblivious and ignorant to the rest of nutrition. Like the focus was purely on carbohydrates. So when we were all doing our various little trainings, like we were just smashing potatoes and pasta and rice and stuff like that every night of the week. Like carbohydrates was the focus. And I was training enough to sort of use all that energy, but yeah, that was really my sort of early introduction to how food fuels us and how you've got to be in control of that to perform correctly. So then I guess later on in life, once I started getting into CrossFit, that's when things really started to change. Actually, no, a little bit earlier before that, I started to become aware of protein, but more so protein as a protein powder and how you had to be taking that to be building muscle. Again, like it was just, you were just learning from other ignorant people at the gym. So, you get into the gym and they're like, oh, you need to have a mass gainer, you need to have a bulking protein. So you have that, and I mean, I wasn't training hard enough to justify that, plus the rest of my diet was average, so I just started getting this fat gut, and I was like, oh, this is fucking weird. So you start playing around with other types of protein, and then you start to learn, oh, okay, so like obviously foods are protein as well, so I need to eat more of that as well. But once I actually started training CrossFit quite religiously and was speaking with the main coach there a lot, he got me onto this app, MyFitnessPal, and I swore by that for a long time because, it works out. You just punch in your height, your weight, your age, your gender, your activity level, blah, 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 what your goals are, and it spits out, okay, this is how many calories you need to eat, this is the percentage of fats, carbs, and proteins you need to eat. It tells you all your nutritional information, but to be fair, most people are just using it to track their total calories and to track their protein, because those are the two things that we're told are the most important and that you need to focus on. And I've sworn by this for a long time myself. So the CrossFit training and sort of culture really sent us down this road of becoming very obsessed with our macronutrients, our fats, our proteins, and our carbs. So that was a massive thing for me for a long time. And then once I started studying to become a personal trainer and learning more about nutrition, like that was all kind of backed up, and everything I was watching online was backing all of that up as well. I'm one of those people, once I start learning stuff, I start looking for other sources as well, like I want to get different opinions and different experiences and all of that on it. So everything that I was finding online in the fitness niche was backing up that narrative. And I'm not here to say that's wrong. Like that's definitely, like most people are eating too many carbs and too many fats and too many processed foods and nowhere near enough protein. But my kind of thinking with everything now is that maybe, just maybe, we don't actually need to be eating quite as much protein as we've been led to believe. And maybe, just maybe, stressing out about your calories isn't the healthiest way to go about doing it. Sure, like it's effective. Like we could get our weight to where we needed it. I used MyFitnessPal a lot when I was cutting weight for jiu-jitsu competitions. So like that is very effective. Like it does work, but at the cost of teetering on eating disorders and becoming fucking painful at social situations and standing there at the supermarket reading fucking everything and scanning everything into your phone. Yeah, it works. It can get you to that point, but at the expense of an enjoyable, healthy lifestyle. So we've also, the last, I don't even remember how long, really been trying to get more whole foods into our diet. So more my approach with clients in the last couple of years has been, look, you need to be more aware of the protein you're eating and you need to be getting more fiber in, because those two things slow down your digestive system so you don't eat as much. So that's, for me, a really simple way of kind of cutting back the calories that you're eating, getting more whole foods into your diet. They're more nutrient dense and less calorie dense. more or less, obviously things like avocados and fats are obviously going to be quite fucking calorie dense as well, but it's the nutrients that you really want with those kind of things. But yeah, those became the two sort of focal points for what I was doing with myself and what I was doing with my clients. And so I was still consuming a lot of protein powders. And again, like, this isn't me sitting here bashing on protein powders, but I think just a little bit more research and a little bit more understanding needs to be done with some of the individual products out there. Like, now that we're in Ecuador, protein powder is so expensive. So we just decided to just cut it out, like, we'll get our protein numbers in other way. The meals here are very, very very carb dense, like, you'll sit down and you'll have a plate of, like, it's usually like chicken or fish or something good. There's usually a salad, but there's rice, there's potatoes, and there's lentils, and there's all these other things. For me, I'm like, you don't need all of that, just have one carb source is cool, but the plates here are like 70% carbohydrates. So just that, and being aware of, what I know now, like, I typically will eat a lot smaller portions here. I'll ask to have rice on the side so that I can add however much I think I need to the dish. So I'm naturally eating a lot less. We're focusing on whole foods even more now because they're so fucking cheap here and they're so accessible. So we're getting a lot more whole foods in here than we were in New Zealand. But our protein numbers have probably halved, if I had to guess, because I was having up to as many as three, I'll say shakes, scoops a day. Like, I'd have a smoothie in the morning, and then I'd take a shake to work that I could just sort of mix up and eat on the go, and then I'd have a scoop with yogurt and berries in the evening. And so I've noticed that I'm actually looking and feeling a whole lot better now than I have all of those years when I was being really strict with everything, and I was weighing everything, and I was making sure I was hitting those protein numbers, and my protein numbers have dropped drastically. And doing a little bit of research into that, like, a lot of the cheaper, I suppose we'll call it, protein powders out there, especially like the whey concentrates and a lot of these like heavily produced things, they have a very inflammatory effect on our stomach and on our gut bacteria. So just by cutting that out alone, and by cutting out basically anything that says it's got added protein in terms of like products, because we're still eating some processed stuff, but yeah, eating more clean protein sources and just eating more whole foods in general, like, my gut feels better, my joints feel better, I'm feeling fuller on less amounts of food. Like, everything is just operating better, and without really trying too hard. Like, I'm not training as hard as I used to, and I'm looking better. Like, I'm looking leaner, and that's like, that's without really caring or aiming for that so much. Like, that's a pretty cool thing to have going on as well. Like, because there is that ego there. We do still want to look good, so it's just an interesting little thing that I've noticed lately, that by cutting out and just reducing all of these numbers that we've been told we need to go for, I'm like, well, I don't actually think that's the case. Like, do we need to do a little bit more research into this? Like, do we need to be eating 2 grams of protein per kg of body weight, or is that just something that's been fluffed a little bit by the scientists that are being paid by the fucking fitness and supplement industry? Because supplements is another thing. Like, you're seeing it everywhere now. Like, every second influencer online is selling supplements, and I just don't think enough people understand that a supplement is exactly that. It's supplementing something that you can get through whole foods. Yeah, sure, there's some obvious things out there, like, if you're, say, a vegan, you're going to struggle to get iron and your B12, so you need to take those supplements. There is some really beneficial ones out there, your fish oils, your B12s and your irons, and your magnesiums, and all of these kind of things that we can be taking that do have massive benefits, that can be tricky to get into our diets. Creatine's another one, like, creatine's a very beneficial supplement, but some of the protein powders and all of these other things, and these, what's it called, your amino acids and all these other things. Like they're just a marketing ploy. Like the green powders is the worst. Like just eat more fucking fruit and vegetables. Eat more green shit. Like don't take these supplements and then still eat a shitty diet. Like you're achieving nothing, and I'm seeing that a lot. So yeah, the whole food approach has definitely changed us a lot. You know, and it's bleeding over into this new lifestyle we've adopted, where we're trying to grow more of our food. Like we're never going to be self-sufficient with the garden that we've got now, but we've got a massive fucking basil bush. We've been starting to harvest our silver beet because that's grown like there's fucking no tomorrow. We're going to have some broccoli soon. We're going to have about fucking 100 what's it called, carrots soon. We've got heaps of other herbs going. The mint bush is going insane. We're growing a few little tomatoes. We're making teas with the lemongrass, and we've got rosemary and all these other little things going on. We're going to have cilantro soon. We've more or less got a fucking just a massive herb garden with herb and flower garden, but there's still some of those whole foods that are coming through now. Some of those fruits and veggies that are going to be coming through. And yeah, it's not going to sustain us forever, but it's that we made that, you know, we grew that, we nurtured that, and it's so much different when you eat that. Like the first little tomato we plucked the other day, I just had it on a piece of toast, and it was fucking incredible, you know, like it just tasted different. It tasted like a sunshiny day. So yeah, that whole food and that gardening approach, it's just bringing us closer to nature. It's just recreating this connection with our food now. Because growing up, my grandfather had a massive veggie garden. My mum had a massive veggie garden. So a lot of the fruit and veggies that we were eating as a kid had come from family, and you don't really appreciate or understand that as a kid. Like when you just grow up like that, that's just normal. You know, like people grow their own fruit and veggies. But you know, this was the 90s. Like it's a different time now. Like nobody is growing their own fruit and veggies, and nobody is eating seasonally anymore. It's yeah, it's crazy. Like if we could get back to that proper connection with our food, everything would change. We're trying to do that now with Sol, with our little mini family, you know, like we sit down and we eat together, and she's eating a predominantly whole foods diet. We're not denying her sugars and shit like that. Like we have limited amounts in the house, so we have some little cookies and things like that. I'll make cookies quite a bit, and as part of the potty training process at the moment, like we'll give her a little candy if she goes and does her poos on the toilet, you know, like a big girl. So we're not 100% denying it, but we're just not making it a massive thing at home. You know, she gets it everywhere else, you know, like family members, when she goes to other family members' house, you know, they're giving her sugary treats as well. So for us, it's like she's going to get that. We don't want to completely deny her of that. But if we control it in the house, it means that when she gets at those other places, she's not over consuming on all of those things. Because when you get those things in the house, and then you get them when you go over to friends' places, and when you're getting them fucking everywhere, all of a sudden it's like fucking 60-70% of your diet. So by just really trying to eliminate sugars and too much processed stuff around the house, and helping her understand that those things are treats, they're special things, like it's just teaching her to understand and connect properly with her food. She's seeing that we're growing food, you know, like she doesn't like tomatoes, so she didn't eat any of it the other day, but she thought it was so cool that she plucked this tomato from the plant, and then I chopped it up and I had it on some toast. So going back again to like just that idea of control with food, like it was robbing us of moments, you know, like we'd be hanging out with friends, and we'd be going out somewhere for dinner, or, you know, like even just things like having some drinks. Like it got to a point where at the time, like I thought it was a cool thing to say, but I look back and I was like, man, like I was just denying myself and just going about shit all wrong. Like if we knew that we were going to be having a big night, I'd be like, okay, like I know how many carbs and how many calories are in a beer. I know roughly how many I'm going to have. So I'm just going to have fucking protein and fats for breakfast, protein and fats for lunch, and then I'm going to drink my carbs this evening. And yeah, okay, it worked. Like I stayed within those ranges, but like that's such an unhealthy mindset. And then there'd be even times where we'd be like, sweet, let's just drink vodka, lime, and soda because there's fuck all calories in that, and we can drink heaps of that. And again, like that's an unhealthy. Like I'm drinking purely for the sake to get the buzz and to stay within a calorie deficit. No, like I mean, I don't even like that drink. I was just drinking it because I could fucking two birds with one stone. Like I like having a beer. Like I like having a glass of whiskey. I like having a glass of rum, a glass of wine. Like I like those things. I mean, I know what they're worth now, but at the same time, like I don't give a fuck because I'm not trying to look a particular way. I'm not worried about that anymore. So as long as I'm giving my body what I know it really needs, I can have those things and enjoy them for what they are. So just shifting away from that whole perspective of control, it was, you know, it was denying us in situations. You'd go have dinner at a friend's house and you're thinking the whole time, okay, fuck, I'm going to go to this friend's house for dinner tonight. Like, okay, I need to make sure I get enough protein in today because what if they don't have enough protein on the plate? And how many calories should I leave myself to spare so that, you know, I don't overindulge tonight? And it's not a healthy way to go into having a meal with somebody. You know, somebody's invited you over to their house to eat with them, with their family in their home. They're preparing it with their hands, and you're going in thinking, cool, fuck, I don't want to have too much because I'm trying to get abs. The other thing as well, like we really, and I think a lot of people do, like, and I'm not saying we don't do it at all anymore, but there was this whole time where you just sit down in front of TV, watch your show, and just eat your dinner on the couch. And, you know, we'll still do that sometimes. Like, we'll hop in bed and watch a movie with Sol and have like a pretty basic meal. You can't have anything too crazy because she fucking flicks shit everywhere or drops her fucking plate. But we'll still sit down and have dinner in in bed. You know, we might sit down and have breakfast on the couch, or, you know, like a quick bite to eat down on the couch. But the majority of our meals are at the table, or we'll sit down in the garden together, but without really meaning to. Like, we haven't got a no screens rule with that sort of thing, but like quite often I think like we really appreciate not having a phone there, being able to just sit down and just enjoy each other's company, and have a yarn to Sol, and play games, and sing and count. And her whole mentality right now is she's obviously very aware that she speaks two languages, and Spanish is dominating everything at the moment. So we're making comments fairly often that she's losing her English, and we're trying to switch her back to English at home. So she's losing her English, but it's become this obsession with her where she wants to know the name of everything in both languages. So we'll quite often sit down there at a mealtime and she's pointing at everything. She wants to know the name of it. Then she wants to know its name in English. Then she wants to know its name in Spanish again. And then she wants to tell us, and she wants to ask us, and she wants to tell us that we're getting it right. But it's just cool, you know, like it's just a simple thing. But we're sitting down at dinner, and we're talking about the food, and we're naming all the items of food. Like we're not consuming anything other than the food and each other's attention. We're not looking at screens anymore. So yeah, for a long time I was adamant about the whole food is fuel. Treat your food as fuel, but food is more than that. Food is a connection. Food connects you to your body. Eating what makes you feel alive, not restricted. Food connects you to your culture. There's the recipes, there's tradition, there's the seasonal and the local eating. Food connects you with your family and your community. Like, sharing a meal with somebody is such a beautiful thing. Bringing somebody into your house and cooking for them, going to somebody's house and being cooked for, like, it's a beautiful thing. And food connects you with your mindset as well. Like, it's shifting away from that control mindset and into the curiosity, the awareness, the gratitude. So the gratitude side of it is something we're really seeing lately, you know, like we're grateful that we can grow some of this food that we're eating. We've got so much fucking basil growing, so we quite often will make pizzas on the weekend, but I'm loving making the dough myself, making the sauce myself. And so we'll just make a basic margarita pizza with the basil. But even that, you have that moment of gratitude, because you're like, holy shit, like we we did all of this ourselves, bar the cheese. So yeah, it's just moving away from the dangers of that control culture with food. You need to be aware of what you're eating, but you need to connect with what you're eating. You need to stop obsessing over those stupid little details, obsessing over the macronutrients, obsessing over the calories. Like if you just eat more whole foods, you are naturally going to start feeling healthier and feeling better and moving towards eating fewer calories anyway. We shouldn't need to make that the focus, make that the priority. Sure, if you want to lose weight, you need to move more and you need to eat less. Like that's the golden rule. You have to be doing that. But just by consuming more whole foods, you're naturally going to be doing that. You're naturally going to be eating more fiber and more of the stuff that's going to keep you full for longer. But yeah, the one thing I suppose you should be considering but not obsessing over is just making sure you're not overindulging. We don't need to eat until we're full. So just some practical takeaways from this episode. I want you to try and cook one meal from scratch this week. And this is going back to what we were talking about in mindfulness in the last episode as well. Like, notice the smells, notice the textures, notice the time it takes to cook. Think about when you need to start cooking each individual element of the dish. Like, just be present and cook it from scratch. Like, it's not that hard to make a pasta sauce. Okay, like, I'm not saying you need to make the pasta from scratch, but the pasta sauce, yeah, it's not that hard. You blanch a couple of tomatoes, you chop them up, you simmer everything down, you add a little bit of wine, you add a little bit of balsamic vinegar, your herbs and spices, anything else you want to add in there, and boom, you've got your pasta sauce. It's not that hard to cook something from scratch. So that's the first thing I want you to do this week. Cook something from scratch and be aware, be present during that moment. And eat a meal without distractions. That's the next thing I want you to do. Sit down, no phone, no TV, just awareness. Sit down outside with your family, with your spouse, whoever. Sit down at the table, but just sit down and just connect. Connect with the meal and connect with your loved ones again. And share food. It's the other one. Invite somebody over to sit down. Invite somebody over to sit down and share a meal with you and your family, and just have a slow, fun evening eating, talking, and just having a fucking blast. And to be honest, you can do all three of those things in one hit. Invite somebody over, cook the meal yourself, and don't have any screens there. Boom, you've just done all three of those little tasks in one go. What's one meal that brings you back to connection? Maybe a dish from your childhood or something you love to cook for others. I'd love to share some of your stories in future campfire sessions. Food isn't just what keeps us alive, it's what connects us. When we stop chasing control and start focusing on connection, food becomes a source of strength, balance, and community. Stay strong, stay balanced, stay connected. That's the Grizzly way.